They thought Sergeant Vasquez was just another soldier lost in the blast. But when warlord Marcus, the scarred Khalil, holds General Richardson at gunpoint, mocking "No one's coming for you," a single whisper crackles over the radio. "I'm inside." They think she's dead. What they don't know, she's already taken out 3 guards and has 1 bullet left with Khalil's name on it. Stick around. The rescue won't be silent. It'll be surgical and unforgettable. We'd love to know where in the world you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Comment below and subscribe to stay updated. Marcus the Scarred. Khalil stands at the observation point, his weathered fingers tracing the jagged scar that splits his face from temple to jaw. The morning sun catches his silver-flecked beard as he watches the American convoy snake through the valley below their vehicles, kicking up dust like tiny prayers rising to heaven. His mouth curves into a predatory smile. Everything is perfect. The angles, the timing, the betrayal that brought him this intelligence. His empire of fear, built over a decade of ruthless insurgency, is about to claim its greatest trophy. The radio at his hip crackles. "Commander, they're approaching the first marker." Marcus the Scarred. Khalil lifts his binoculars, focusing on the lead vehicle. Through the dust, he catches glimpses of stars on collars. General Richardson, the man who's been hunting him for 3 years. The irony tastes sweet. The explosion transforms the morning into chaos. The sound rolls through the valley like thunder, and Marcus, the Scarred Khalil's heart pounds with savage joy as he watches the convoy scatter. His men emerge from their hiding spots, a well-orchestrated dance of death. The general's security detail puts up a fight, but they're outmatched, outmaneuvered. Everything goes according to plan until that first impossible shot. One of his best men drops a clean hit through the neck. Before Marcus, the Scarred, Khalil can process this, another falls. The distinctive crack of a high-powered rifle echoes off the mountain walls, creating a symphony of threat. Through his scope, he catches a glimpse of her, a female sniper moving with deadly precision despite an obvious wound. Sergeant Vasquez, he'll later learn, though right now she's just an unexpected variable in his perfect equation. "Find her, boss." Marcus the Scarred. Khalil roars into his radio, his hand unconsciously touching the medal he always wears, a trophy from his first military victory. "No one challenges me in my mountains," but even as he speaks, another of his men falls to her expertise. The operation succeeds. They capture Richardson, but something has changed. That woman, that sniper, she's still out there. Marcus the Scarred. Khalil stands in his command center watching the general being secured, but his thoughts keep returning to those shots, to the defiance in her stance, even when wounded. For the first time in years, uncertainty creeps into his iron grip on power. The metal feels heavy against his chest as he reviews the morning's footage on his tablets. Social media is already exploding with clips of the ambush, Chuoswasher mountain strike, trending across platforms. But it's not his victory they're sharing. It's shaky phone footage of his men falling to precise shots from an unseen shooter. His empire suddenly feels less secure. Have you ever felt absolute control slip through your fingers? Marcus the Scarred. Khalil thinks staring at the mountain peaks that have protected him for so long. Have you watched your perfect plan develop a single deadly flaw? The medal that once represented his invincibility now feels like a target on his chest. Type power if you've ever seen an empire start to crack. The sun sets behind the mountains, casting long shadows across his fortress. Marcus. The scarred Khalil can't shake the feeling that something fundamental has shifted. His fingers trace his scar again, remembering how he earned it. Another time he underestimated an opponent. But this time feels different. This time there's a sniper in his mountains who seems to read his every move, who turns his sanctuary into a hunting ground. Will the mountains that made Marcus, the scarred Khalil, a legend, now become his tomb? The question echoes in his mind as night falls, and somewhere in the darkness, a rifle waits. Marcus, the scarred. Khalil paced the stone corridors of his mountain fortress, his scarred fingers tracing the cold walls that had sheltered him through countless battles. The morning sun cast long shadows through the arrow-slit windows, and for the first time in years, these familiar shadows felt like prison bars. "Commander, another position compromised." His lieutenant reported, voice trembling. "She disabled the eastern post without firing a shot. The men, they're saying she's inside their heads." Marcus clutched his victory pendant, the metal warm against his palm. 30 years of insurgency had taught him that fear was a weapon sharper than any blade. But now that weapon was turning against him. The American sniper Sergeant Vasquez wasn't just targeting his men. She was unraveling the very fabric of fear he'd woven so carefully. Young Ahmed's morning report came with subtle defiance in his eyes. "The villagers speak of her, Commander. They say she feeds their children, treats their wounded, like the stories of my father." Marcus finished, his voice harsh. The pendant felt heavier now. His father, the village doctor, had once told him that true power came from healing, not hurting. He'd dismissed those words as weakness, buried them under years of violence. But now they surfaced like corpses in a flood. The scientific journals he'd studied about psychological warfare had never prepared him for this. His expertise had always been in breaking spirits, not facing one unbreakable. Each precision shot from Sergeant Vasquez carried a message. Mercy was not weakness. Every spared life became a crack in his authority. Marcus remembered his first teacher in warfare, Commander Hassan. "Fear is reliable," Hassan had said. "Mercy is a cancer that spreads." But Hassan had died alone, betrayed by his own men. The memory stirred something uncomfortable in Marcus's gut. His fingers traced the scar on his face. His first lesson in power. "Have you ever watched your empire crumble from within?" he whispered to his reflection in the window. The morning sun illuminated the doubt in his eyes. The fortress walls seemed to close in as reports filtered through, men deserting their posts, locals smuggling information to the American forces, young recruits whispering about surrender. His pendant caught the light, mocking him with memories of past victories. A distant shot rang out. Another warning, another display of precision. Marcus flinched, though he'd never admit it. The sniper was dismantling his power structure one bullet at a time, and worse, one act of mercy at a time. "Commander," Ahmed's voice came again, softer now. "The men are asking about General Richardson's medication. They say if we deny him treatment, silence." Marcus roared, but his voice echoed differently in the fortress halls, hollow like his authority. The pendant swung from his neck as he turned, catching the light one more time. In its reflection, he saw his father's disappointed face. Studies on insurgent psychology had shown that authority maintained through fear required constant reinforcement. But what happened when a stronger force chose mercy? The question gnawed at him like shrapnel under skin. Type empire falls. If you've ever watched something you built begin to crumble. His empire of fear, built over 3 decades, was being dismantled not by superior firepower, but by calculated compassion. Each act of mercy from Sergeant Vasquez was a demonstration of true strength, each spared life a testament to a power greater than terror. Marcus, the scarred. Khalil stood at his fortress window, watching the sun climb higher. His pendant felt like a noose, now the weight of his choices hanging heavy. In the distance, a single shot rang out. Another warning, another chance for redemption he didn't deserve. The hidden problem wasn't the sniper's skill with a rifle. It was the realization that his entire understanding of power had been built on shifting sand. And now that sand was slipping through his scarred fingers like time itself. Marcus. The scarred Khalil paces the command center of his mountain fortress, each echo of his boots against stone, matching the pounding of his heart. The radio crackles with another desperate report. The fourth sniper position lost in 3 hours. His fingers instinctively clutch the metal pendant at his throat, the cold steel no longer bringing its usual comfort. "Sir, Delta Sector's gone dark," his lieutenant whispers, voice trembling. "She's systematically cutting us off from the ridge approaches." The words slice through Marcus, the scarred Khalil's carefully constructed sense of control. He's commanded this fortress for 5 years, knew every shadow, every defensive position. But now each familiar corner harbors potential death. Sergeant Vasquez has turned his sanctuary into a killing ground. A shot rings out its report, bouncing off the mountain walls in a haunting cascade. Marcus, the scarred Khalil, flinches, actually flinches, for the first time since earning his namesake scar. The sound seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, a ghost's laughter mocking his growing fear. 3 more men down at the eastern checkpoint. The radio spits static and panic. "She's using our own echo mapping against us, sir. We can't track her position." Marcus. The scarred. Khalil's hand trembles as he adjusts the surveillance feeds. The screens show his remaining forces huddled behind cover, jumping at every whisper of wind. His impregnable fortress has become a trap, and his men know it. "Sir!" His communication officer interrupts, face pale. "It's trending on social media. Someone leaked footage of our losses. Your mountain sniper is viral. CNN's picking it up." The pendant feels like it's choking him now. Marcus, the scarred Khalil's legacy built on fear and iron control, is unraveling with each precise shot. He watches as another guard falls, the rifle crack echoing 7 times before fading. His men are breaking and he can't stop it. Have you ever felt your fortress become your prison-type echo, if you've watched your strength become your weakness? In his private quarters, Marcus, the scarred Khalil, stares at his reflection, the scar tissue along his jaw, standing stark against his ashen skin. "I built this place to amplify fear," he whispers to himself. "Every angle, every acoustic shadow, designed to break enemies. But she understands the mountain's voice better than I ever did." The night deepens, but sleep eludes Marcus, the scarred Khalil. Each distant shot carries a message his control is an illusion. General Richardson's rescue is inevitable. The mountain winds keen through the fortress's corridors, carrying away his authority with each passing hour. "We've lost contact with the Western Guard posts," his lieutenant reports at dawn, voice hoarse. "The men are saying she's a ghost, sir. They're saying the mountain itself has turned against us." Marcus, the scarred. Khalil's empire of fear is crumbling, brought down not by an army, but by a single sniper who turned his greatest strength into his ultimate vulnerability. The pendant that once symbolized his power now feels like a mark of doom around his neck. As the sun rises, casting long shadows across his command center, Marcus. The scarred. Khalil realizes a terrible truth: he's no longer the hunter. In his own domain, he's become the prey, and every echo of Sergeant Vasquez's rifle reminds him that his time is running out. The mountain's voice, once his ally, now carries only defeat on its winds. And somewhere in those peaks, a lone sniper continues her deadly work, dismantling his world, one shot at a time. Using the fortress's security feed, Marcus, the scarred. Khalil watched another of his men fall to Sergeant Vasquez's precise shot. The distant crack of her rifle echoed through the mountain valleys, a haunting reminder of his diminishing control. His hand instinctively clutched the silver pendant, his symbol of command, as it swung against his chest. "Sir, we've lost the eastern perimeter." His lieutenant's voice cracked with panic. "She's systematically taking out our defensive positions." Marcus, the scarred Khalil, stormed through the corridors of his once impregnable fortress, the sound of his boots against stone drowned out by sporadic gunfire and shattering glass. Each explosion sent tremors through the ancient walls, as if the mountain itself was rejecting his presence. The security monitors showed his men scrambling for cover, their movements desperate and uncoordinated. "Hold your positions." Marcus, the Scarred. Khalil bellowed into his radio, but the fear in his voice betrayed his failing confidence. Another explosion rocked the building closer this time. The pendant bounced against his chest like a metronome counting down to his defeat. Through the command center's reinforced windows, he spotted a glint of light on the opposite ridge. Her scope, he realized, taunting him. The woman wasn't just fighting. She was dismantling his operation with surgical precision. Each shot calculated, each move predetermined, like a grandmaster destroying an amateur's defenses. "Sir, the lower level is compromised." Another voice crackled through the radio. "We can't hold." The transmission cut off with a burst of static. Marcus, the Scarred. Khalil's hands trembled as he tried to input the codes to seal the blast doors. The fortress's sophisticated security system, once his pride, now felt like a cage closing in around him. The pendant caught the emergency lights casting dancing shadows on the wall that reminded him of the flames that had earned him his nickname. "Get General Richardson to the secure bunker," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "She's coming for him. She won't stop until—" The window exploded inward, showering him with safety glass. Marcus, the Scarred Khalil, dove behind a console, his heart pounding. She wasn't just good. She was reading his every move, predicting his tactics. The fortress he'd chosen for its impregnability was becoming a killing ground. "Sir, what are your orders?" The few remaining men looked to him with desperate eyes. The pendant felt heavy now, a weight of responsibility he could no longer bear. Outside, multiple explosions illuminated the night sky. She had to have help. No single sniper could cause this much chaos. But every attempt to spot her support team had failed. It was as if she was everywhere and nowhere. "Fall back to position 3. Marcus, the Scarred Khalil commanded, but even as the words left his mouth, another explosion rendered that escape route unusable. The acrid smell of smoke began filling the corridors. His fortress was becoming his tomb. A new sound cut through the chaos. Helicopters, not his. Through the shattered window, he saw black shapes against the stars. The pendant swung wildly as he spun around, searching for options that no longer existed. "This is your last chance, Khalil." Her voice, amplified through speakers, filled the mountain air. "Release General Richardson, or I'll take this fortress apart, stone by stone." Marcus, the Scarred. Khalil's fingers closed around the pendant, feeling its edges bite into his palm. Everything he'd built, every calculated move that had brought him power, was crumbling under the relentless assault of a single soldier. Type Fortress Falls, if you want to see justice served, appeared briefly on screen as Marcus, the Scarred Khalil, faced the inevitable conclusion of his reign. The security feeds showed his men surrendering one by one. The impenetrable fortress had become a trap, and its master was about to become its prisoner. In the final moments before the special forces breached his command center, Marcus, the Scarred Khalil, looked at his reflection in the broken glass. Not a feared commander anymore, but a man undone by his own hubris. The pendant slipped from his fingers, clattering to the floor as the doors burst open. In the cold dawn light, Marcus, the Scarred Khalil, stares through the shattered window of his once impregnable command center. Blood trickles from a fresh wound on his shoulder, a calling card from Sergeant Vasquez's latest shot. The metal pendant, his longtime symbol of authority, feels heavy against his chest, its weight now a mockery of his crumbling power. "Sir, we've lost the eastern perimeter." A lieutenant's panicked voice crackles through the radio. Marcus doesn't respond. He doesn't need to. The precision shots echoing through the valley tell the story better than any report could. Each crack of her rifle dismantles another piece of his carefully constructed empire. The sunlight catches his reflection in a fragment of glass. The scar that once made men tremble now looks different to him. Not a badge of strength, but a mark of stubborn pride. He touches it, remembering how he'd boasted about it to General Richardson just yesterday. Every scar tells a story of victory, he'd proclaimed. Now those words taste like ash in his mouth. A distinctive crack splits the air, and another of his men falls. Through his scope, Marcus watches the soldier drop. Clean shot, instant death. Professional. Merciful, even. The realization hits him harder than any bullet. Sergeant Vasquez isn't just fighting. She's teaching him something about true strength. "You've been outplayed by one soldier," he whispers to his reflection. "One woman who understood what you never did, that fortresses can become prisons." The pendant slips from his trembling fingers, clattering against the floor as another shot rings out. This one takes out his last sniper nest. His fortress, once housing 300 loyal fighters, now feels emptier than a tomb. In 24 hours, she systematically stripped away every layer of his defense, every illusion of his invincibility. Marcus reaches for his radio, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hand. "Release General Richardson," he commands, "and signal our surrender." The silence that follows feels eternal. Then, from somewhere in the valley, a single shot hits the wall beside him. Deliberate, precise. A warning and an acknowledgement. "I understand now." Marcus speaks to the mountains, knowing she's watching. True power isn't in how many men you command or how strong your walls are. It's in the unwavering spirit of a single soldier who refuses to back down. He steps out onto the balcony, arms raised. The morning sun catches his scar, and for the first time he feels no pride in it. In the distance, through his scope, he glimpses a flash of movement. Sergeant Vasquez emerging from her hidden position rifle, steady. Type walls fall if you've ever witnessed pride crumble into wisdom. His fortress will become a memorial, now not to his strength, but to his greatest lesson that one determined soul can bring down an empire. The pendant lies forgotten on the floor, its metallic surface reflecting the dawn of a new understanding. As they lead him away in chains, Marcus the Scarred. Khalil looks back at his mountain fortress one last time. "The greatest scar," he murmurs, "is the one you can't see, the mark left when your entire world shifts beneath your feet." Share this story if you believe in the power of unstoppable determination. The final shot rings out. Not from her rifle this time, but from the cameras capturing his surrender. Tomorrow his fortress will be empty. His army disbanded, his legend reduced to a cautionary tale. But the lesson will echo through these mountains forever. Never underestimate the power of a single determined soldier.